Dr. K.S. Naranachari was a master in this art, which is quite evident to those who are fortunate to experience his genius through his writings. Dr. K.S. Naranachari's rich knowledge and ability to cross-reference many works in his writing is a testament to the breadth and the depth of his knowledge. In a span of 3 pages, he goes from Jarasanda's birth to God's imagination to the current societal framework where people are doing certain worships to conversion. So I don't think anybody other than a genius can do such a vast expanse of things. My namaskara to the holy feet of Dr. K.S. Naranacharya, in whose perpetual presence we have assembled today. My namaskara to the distinguished speakers on the stage, all the scholars, educators, ladies and gentlemen. So, just to say what I'm going to talk about, there have been a lot of topics that have been discussed, but I just want to talk about how I find Dr. K.S. Naranacharya. I never had the opportunity to meet him in person, but I think he's talking to me every day through his work. So this is just my personal reflection of how I find him. So in Sanatana Dharma, there's a famous phrase: when the student is ready, the Guru appears. Guru, who is the remover of ignorance, is the one who enables the student to tide over the ocean of ignorance and go towards his path of realization. Some are blessed to find their gurus in physical realm, whereas some of us not so blessed to find the gurus through the books who don the role of Manasika Gurus. So I need to highlight that I'm just a bystander on the beach. Like when I look at Dr. K.S. Naranacharya, I think he's like an ocean of knowledge whose expanse I cannot even fathom or even try to grasp. So I'm just trying to take a fistful of water and try to make sense of what Dr. K.S. Naranacharya stood for. I'm sure he's much more than what I'm going to speak today about. So K.S. Naranacharya came into my life in the form of an unseen guru who gave me valuable lessons through his writings and books. When I was growing up, DVG was already shaping my thoughts and my philosophy through his Kagga, and S.L. Bhairappa sir was driving my societal mind, how the society is evolving. But in the middle of this, one of my favorite topics, which is a constant dvandva in my mind, is this finer tenets of Dharma, especially related to Mahabharata. And this is where Dr. K.S. Naranacharya came into my life. My encounter with Dr. K.S. Naranacharya was quite accidental. I didn't really know who he was. I used to go to Sapna Book House to go and pick up some books when I was coming back from office, and on a whim, without any thought, I just went and bought this Veda Samskriti Parichaya 3-book combo pack. Though I'm guilty actually of not completing this magnum opus, but I compulsively refer to these books at times when certain questions crop up, either as a product of reflection when I'm thinking about some topics or a debate that happens, especially in social media. So amongst the profuse amount of work of this Acharya, I feel this book is not very widely spoken about. Even yesterday I was talking to Ritwikji that we need to get this in English at some point of time. This book actually, the book that really changed my understanding of Itihasa, and in general it gave me a very different perspective, is Ahadinentu Dinagalu, which we know better as Those 18 Days. I was actually very fortunate to proofread and edit the latest revision, which was actually edited by Acharya himself. Mahabharata is a topic that holds immense and ever-growing appeal among Bharatiyas. Woven into many subplots and stories, it has something for everyone at every juncture of life. However, there are two parts of this epic that commands a lot of interest amongst the readers. One is the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which we all revere and worship. The other is the 18-day war. Those 18 days, for those of you who have not read it, is a masterpiece on the finer tenets of Dharma. And I cannot just stop appreciating and celebrating about the skill of the author to highlight the nuances of Dharma. Mahabharata Bar was a very gory one, there is no mistake about it, in which our entire Bharatavarsha's history changed forever. As Krishna says, this was essential to ensure that Dharma was re-established on this very holy land. However, when one starts to analyze the various events and personalities involved in the war, they are bounded with a lot of questions about the legality, about why one couldn't have been better though they were wronged. What was the reason for Drishtadyumna's action against Drona? Wasn't Drona his guru? Such questions are bound to come, especially in debates. And I think if somebody is following social media, I think you would see that there is this whole fight about Karna, was he a hero, was he a villain, kind of a thing that keeps on. So one wishes to answer these or even contemplate on such questions. They need a guide who needs to make them understand the subtle nature of Dharma. Dharma is very subtle. Naranacharya has blessed us with a work that provides very rich insights into this topic, and for this reason, I think this is one of his finest works written about Mahabharata. I mean, just not about his, across the spectrum of works on Mahabharata, this is definitely on the top tier. I would like to read out a small portion of that book where at the end of the war, Balram and Krishna are actually having a debate. And I just want to highlight how K.S. Naranacharya ji intertwined Dharma into a debate between two brothers. So Balrama says, this is a clear denouncement, let it be, but what shall we do now? Krishna, in his own just says, just go home to Dwarka, forget all this, enjoy ourselves in innocent activities and pleasures for the rest of our lives. Krishna is so casual, he's like, let's enjoy, don't worry about it. So, and then he makes a small rejoinder, unless you want to complicate it further by unwanted comments, taking sides. Then there is this whole debate about them that happens. And then Krishna listens to his brother and he says, you know, the science of political wisdom, but not its application or practice. There is this big debate that happens between Balrama and Krishna, where Balrama says, Duryodhana was my Shishya, Bhima has done an injustice by killing him. And then Krishna justifies that, telling that he has settled the score for the humanity. He goes on to elaborate that. In the interest of time, I wouldn't go into the details, but I just want to tell that there is one interesting phrase that I will come to at the end of this talk where Krishna's words resound a lot in modern nature. The brilliance of the author, any author for that matter, and we have a lot of established authors here, lies in their ability to transport the reader to an era where the event is occurring, like giving a ringside view to the event as it is unraveling. So in this case, Dr. K.S. Naranacharya was a master in this art, which is quite evident to those who are fortunate to experience his genius through his writings. Dr. K.S. Naranacharya's rich knowledge and ability to cross-reference many works in his writing is a testament to the breadth and the depth of his knowledge. For example, there's another favorite book which is the last moments of Krishna Avatara, Sri Krishna Avatara, the Kone Galige in Kannada, where there's an exchange between Draupadi and Krishna. So Krishna has been stuck with an arrow, his life force is ebbing away, and Draupadi appears before him, and there's a debate between both of them. And this is a very interesting one actually. Draupadi says, who is that God when they say that all Vedic mantras are pointing towards God? So there is this, you can see that there's a debate between a sister and a brother, but K.S. Naranacharya tries to imbibe dharmic concepts and a debate about dharma, the nuances of dharma into this. And Krishna, in his own jest, says that, good, tell me why should color matter? He's worried about his name. Why am I called Krishna? So, then there is a phrase that comes, great scholars who are not in the least bit fired by love or devotion lecture about Vedic verses and tear them to bits in hugely attended gatherings. I want to throw away my baggage and engage in a wordplay with my sister and best friend. Is that an indulgence? Now, this is where I really find K.S. Naranacharya very, very interesting. Was he commenting about Krishna and Draupadi, or was he commenting about the modern day society? So, there is another thing that I am going to come back in a small while. So, if we read this exchange, we can see that Krishna is actually prodding Draupadi to think. Reflection, which is a very, very important point of our thought process, our Indic way of learning, is something that Krishna is, though his life force is ebbing away, he is trying to teach his sister to think what is happening there. So, in the same book, when Draupadi is responding, the Acharya ji actually goes and puts a lot of cross-references to Kathopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and a lot of other literature. So this is basically one of the examples that I'm trying to highlight where the breadth and the depth of his knowledge, that's why I said he's an ocean. His knowledge, I don't think anybody can comprehend actually. There's just a few specks of brilliance I've tried to highlight to showcase Acharyaji's knowledge and his grip on the subject. Acharyaji was known to be very straightforward. I'm sure people who are very fortunate to have met him will always vouch for that. So yesterday, in this talk, Professor M.S. Chaitra made a very interesting comment about Nataka and how when they did the Nataka in their village, the current affairs, I think including illicit affairs, if you can remember, made their way into this. So when he was speaking, I was making notes and I just reminded of Dr. K. Naranacharya. In Veda Samskriti Parichaya, it's actually a 3-book volume where each book has got different topics like Nachiketa Vidya, Vasishtha Vishwamitra, and about gods. But one of my favorite books is the 3rd book, which is on Mahavishnu, because I keep rereading about Mahavishnu because it's my favorite god. And in that, there is a section on Jarasandha, and this is where I just want to highlight across 3 pages, Acharyaji goes from one extreme to other extreme. So in Jarasandha, there is this from the Sabha Parva, and he says, it's in Kannada by the way, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಜರೆ ಮುಪ್ಪು ಎಂದು ಬೇಕಾದ ರೂಪ ಧರಿಸಬಲ್ಲ ನಾನೊಬ್ಬ ರಾಕ್ಷಸಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಪೂಜೆಗೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾ ಸುಖವಾಗಿದ್ದೇನು. ಯಾರ ರಾಕ್ಷಸಿನ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ವಿಲ್ ಎನಿಬಡಿ ವರ್ಷಿಪ್ ಅ ಡೆಮನಸ್? ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೀಗಿಂಗ್. ನಿನ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರವಲ್ಲ, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ದಿನ ವಾಸಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಆಚಾರ್ಯಜಿ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ಅ ಕಮೆಂಟ್, ಹೇಗಿದೆ ದೇವರ ಕಲ್ಪನೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅನೆಕ್ಡೋಟ್ ವೆರಿ ಟ್ರೈಸ್ ಟು ಡೂ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ he goes on to comment, it's just 2 pages, I flipped 1 page here, and he goes on to comment the reality of the society as we stand. ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಾಗಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಪರಮ ಸಾತ್ವಿಕರಾಗಿರಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದು ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನ ಫಕೀರರ ಸಮಾಧಿಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜಿಸುವವರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಲೇಖಕನೇ ಅನೇಕರನ್ನು ಕಣ್ಣಿಂದ ಕಂಡು ಬೆರಗಾಗಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಶ್ಯೂರ್ ವಿ ಆಲ್ ನೋ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ he referring to, but the point is that he is trying to come and makes a comment, and in the next page, I'm just trying to speed up a little bit here, he goes and talks about conversion. In a span of 3 pages, he goes from Jarasandha's birth to God's imagination to the current societal framework where people are doing certain worships to conversion. So I don't think anybody other than a genius can do such a vast expanse of things. And beyond dharma aspects, K. Naranacharya is an inspiration to many authors, prolific writer in Kannada and English. Sometimes when we do editing, Ritvik ji said I do editing, I actually find it's one of the most challenging jobs to edit Acharya's works, because at times I have to refer to dictionary to really know what was he trying to say. Some of his words I can't make sense of at that point. Just last couple of points I want to make. Yesterday one of the speakers was making a point about Sri Aurobindo's huge influence on K. Naranacharya. I'm sure everybody who knows him knows that. But I'm not sure if it is well known that Acharyaji was actually critical about Sri Aurobindo's methods in some of the things. So one of the books which I really hope makes its way to English at some point of time is Sri Mahabharata Patra Prapancha. In this, there is a phrase that I just want to read out. It is going to be probably the last one I'm going to refer. A phrase which was made by Aurobindo. An epic of the Mahabharata was written by the Krishna of the island called Vyasa, Dvaipayana, in 24,000 couplets or something more, less itinerant than 27,000 on the subject of the great civil war of Bharatas. And then he goes on, and Acharyaji makes a comment, ಆದರೆ ದುರ್ದೈವದಿಂದ ಶ್ರೀ ಅರವಿಂದರಂಥ ಮೇಧಾವಿಗಳು, ತಪಸ್ವಿಗಳು, ವಿಮರ್ಶಕರು ಈ ತಪ್ಪಿನ ಅರಿವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನು ಹೇಳೋಣ? He doesn't really care or has any qualms about calling it out. And he is very straightforward. So in this book called Main Thrust of Gita Thought, I just want to highlight one thing, that where Acharyaji, that's one book I really want everyone to read. All excellence belongs to God. It is abundant and all around. You cannot miss if you are watchful and quick of sensibilities, but you cannot fathom its depth. It's very, very philosophical. It's a simple message, but so simply and succinctly described by K. Naranacharya. Though we have been quoting about Mahabharata quite a bit, and I'm sure many more speakers will speak about it, I think it also needs to be highlighted that Acharyaji has written extensively on Ramayana also. There's a Ramayana Patra Prapancha. There's also this Moola Sankshipta Ramayana, which is something I really personally want to translate into English. Just to conclude, and just to share my thoughts at the end of this, in the autobiography of Yogi, it's a very wonderful book, Sri Yukteswar Giri, who is the guru of Yogananda Paramahamsa, says, man has the natural privilege of roaming secretly amongst its thoughts. This couldn't be truer than in the modern day, where multiple distractions are available literally at one's hand. Various outlets crave for our attention, makes it quite easy for one's focus to waver. In these trying times, it becomes much more important than we make a conscious attempt in imbibing and connecting with our illustrious past. Again, in the same book, Paramahamsa Yoganandaji meets the great scientist Jagdish Chandra Bose, and I think this is one phrase that stuck with me for a long time. It is often forgotten that he who surrounded us with the ever-evolving mystery of creation has also implanted in us the great desire to question and understand. In this context, one might wonder what to read, where to read, and this is where I go back to those 18 days where there is a phrase from Krishna which is very, very prophetic and prolific. The wrongs of the history cannot be silently condemned into a few pages of cold academic study. They have sprouting capabilities. In fact, the seeds of the present lie in the past. Only by a right imagination of the future and right action can you control the past and alter your present. I certainly hope that many more people get to read Acharyaji's works, many more of his works. I'm sure Ritvik ji will be more than interested in getting them out. I'm really thankful to the organizers, Udbhava, Param Foundation, Subbu Books and Sahitya Prakashna for this opportunity to speak amongst you. Thank you so much. Namaskar.